When I first saw my sister's face, standing in the doorway with that suitcase, I didn't know it would be the last time I would ever trust her fully. It had been 2 months since my husband left. The space in the house felt impossibly wide without him, and the walls had somehow grown silent in a way I couldn't describe. The ticking of the clock on the wall sounded louder, as though mocking me, reminding me of the time that was now slipping through my fingers. It wasn't until that day, the day my sister came to visit, that the pain of my reality truly set in. My sister, Maria, had always been my best friend. We had shared everything: secrets, laughter, heartbreak, and now she was here to support me in my brokenness. "I've got a spare room," she said, her voice soft and caring, almost too caring. "You shouldn't be alone right now. I'll stay here for as long as you need me." I welcomed her with open arms, too desperate for company to see what I should have. At first, it seemed like a dream come true. My sister, my rock, was here to hold me up when everything else seemed to be falling apart. We had our late-night talks, shared cups of tea, and even took walks through the empty streets, talking about the past and the uncertain future. But then something changed. It started with the little things. She'd pick up the mail before I had a chance to, arrange my things the way she thought they should be, and make decisions in my own house as though it was her own. At first, I didn't mind. I was a mess, and she was just trying to help. Or at least, that's what I told myself. But then I began to notice how often she would brush against my husband's things as if she had no qualms about removing them from the house. His jacket on the coat rack gone. His favorite coffee mug gone. She said nothing, but the absence of these things felt like an unspoken message I wasn't willing to acknowledge. And then came the conversations. "Have you thought about moving on?" she asked me one night, her voice too calm, too careful. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the faint light from the overhead lamp casting shadows that made her eyes look cold. "You know, it's been months. He's gone. You need to let go." It wasn't the first time she had said something like that, but tonight it felt different. Her words stung. I could see it now, the way she looked at me, the way she didn't seem to want to listen, but instead pushed me towards something I wasn't ready for. But still, I swallowed my unease, telling myself that I was just being paranoid. But as the days went by, I began to see more. Her subtle glances at my husband's old chair, the way she lingered too long over his things when she thought I wasn't looking, the way she would lean a little too close when she knew I was on the phone with him. It wasn't just helping me anymore. It was as if she was moving into my life in a way that felt invasive, as though she was slipping into the gaps he left behind. One afternoon, as I walked past the living room, I saw her standing there, staring at the empty space on the couch. For a moment, I thought it was nothing more than a coincidence, but then she looked at me and smiled, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Would you mind if I moved some of these things around a bit?" she asked, her voice casual, too casual. I froze. The old me, the part of me that still believed we were a team, would have said yes. But today, the words stuck in my throat. "No, I'd prefer it if you didn't." Her face faltered for just a second, but she recovered quickly, as though she hadn't heard my refusal. "It's just a suggestion. No big deal." But to me, it was. The small, almost imperceptible shift in her behavior spoke volumes. It wasn't the help I had asked for. It wasn't even the sister I thought I knew. Something was changing, and I was afraid to confront it. I didn't know it yet, but that fear was only the beginning of something far worse than I could ever imagine. It wasn't until that evening that I noticed the first real crack in the facade. The tension between us was palpable, but I convinced myself it was just the strain of adjusting to my new life. I tried to ignore the small shifts, the way Maria became so comfortable in my space, in my life. But then the evening came that I couldn't ignore it anymore. It started with dinner. We'd been having a quiet evening, just the two of us. I made pasta, the kind we used to eat when we were younger, when life felt simple and predictable. We ate in silence, the only sounds being the clink of utensils and the soft hum of the refrigerator in the background. I was thinking about everything and nothing at once, lost in the numbness that had settled in my chest. But as I set my plate down on the table, I noticed something that made my heart skip a beat. Maria was looking at me differently. She wasn't smiling the way she used to, the way that always made me feel like we were in on some secret together. No, tonight, there was something colder in her eyes. She put her fork down slowly, staring at me with a strange intensity. You know, she said, her voice measured, almost like she was choosing her words carefully, you really should stop holding on to the past. I didn't respond at first. I couldn't. Her words hung in the air, heavy, suffocating. There was a finality in her tone that made my skin prickle. It's just, she continued, her voice almost soft, but with a bite, you don't need to keep waiting for him. He's not coming back. And you deserve better than this. A chill ran down my spine, the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. Something in her words felt wrong, like a veil had lifted just enough for me to see what was hidden beneath. She was pushing me, trying to get me to move on too hard, too fast. I set my fork down and looked her straight in the eyes. I'm not holding on, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm just figuring things out. Maria smiled, but it wasn't a smile of understanding. It was cold, calculated. Of course, you're figuring things out, she replied, the edge in her voice unmistakable now. But I'm here to help, to make sure you don't get stuck in the past. I swallowed the lump in my throat, feeling the weight of her words pressing on me, smothering the air between us. I should have felt grateful, thankful for her offer to help, but instead, I felt something stir, something I couldn't quite place. Later that night, after she had gone to bed, I found myself standing in the hallway, staring at the empty space where my husband's things used to be. His jacket, the one that still smelled faintly like him, was gone. His favorite coffee mug had disappeared too. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. The house was starting to feel like hers, not mine. That's when I realized it. My sister wasn't just living with me. She was slowly taking over my life, my space, my memories. She wasn't helping me heal. She was replacing everything that had been mine, everything that had once belonged to us as a family. The next day, I decided to confront her. But I didn't know how to put into words what I was feeling. I didn't even know if I could trust my own emotions at that point. We sat in the living room, a tense silence hanging between us. I had rehearsed what I wanted to say in my head, but the words felt trapped. How do you accuse someone you love of stealing your life, your identity, your past? How do you tell them that they're replacing your memories with their own? I opened my mouth, but before I could say anything, Maria spoke first. You're thinking too much, she said, her voice smooth, almost patronizing. You need to focus on yourself, on moving forward. Let go of what's gone. I'm just trying to help. I froze. There it was again. Her need to push me, to force me into something I wasn't ready for. But as much as I wanted to argue, to tell her that this wasn't about moving on or letting go, I couldn't. The doubt was eating me from the inside out. You're right, I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. Maybe I am thinking too much. Maybe I'm just lost. Maria gave me a soft smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. We'll get through this together, she said, as if it were a promise, but it felt more like a warning. And so, I continued to live in my own house, surrounded by the echoes of my past, my sister's presence growing more dominant every day. I couldn't escape it. No matter how hard I tried to push away the feeling that something was terribly wrong, I couldn't ignore the truth anymore. Maria wasn't here to help me heal. She was here to replace me. The days stretched on in an uneasy rhythm. Each morning, I woke up to Maria's soft footsteps in the hallway, the faint scent of her perfume wafting through the house, mingling with the coffee I used to make for my husband. Each night, I lay in the bed we once shared, the silence oppressive, broken only by the ticking of the clock. It wasn't just that Maria was here, it was the way she had seamlessly woven herself into my life. The small things became the big things, the subtle intrusions that gnawed at me. She would take my place at the kitchen table, sitting across from me with a knowing smile, like she had always belonged there. She rearranged my things without asking, as if the space didn't belong to me anymore. Every corner of the house, once my sanctuary, was now a reflection of her choices, her presence. But it wasn't until one night, when I came home early from work, that the truth finally hit me. I had been feeling a growing unease for days, but I had no idea how to confront it, or even what it was that I was afraid of. I opened the door, expecting the usual calm of the house. Instead, I was met with the sounds of soft laughter coming from the living room. My heart skipped. I froze in the doorway, unsure if I should even move, my breath caught in my throat. I took a step inside, my pulse pounding in my ears. The sight before me made my stomach drop. There they were, Maria and my husband, sitting on the couch, sharing a bottle of wine between them. They were laughing at something, the sound of their voices mingling together in a way that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I felt like I was frozen in time, unable to move or speak. At first, I couldn't comprehend what I was seeing. I had seen Maria and my husband together countless times before, but never like this. Never in a way that felt so intimate, so natural. The way they leaned into each other, the way their shoulders touched as they shared a private joke, was something I had never seen between them. I don't know how long I stood there, watching them. It could have been minutes, or it could have been hours. Time seemed to stretch and blur. My mind was racing, and yet I couldn't find a single word to say. Maria was the first to notice me. She turned her head, her eyes wide in surprise, but there was no apology in her expression. No guilt. Instead, there was something like amusement. "Oh, you're home early," she said, her voice too casual, too smooth. She stood up quickly, brushing her hands on her jeans. "We were just talking about you." I didn't look at her. My gaze was fixed on my husband, who had stood up as well. He was trying to act casual, but his eyes flickered with a nervousness I had never seen before. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice trembling, barely able to keep it together. My husband cleared his throat, avoiding my gaze. "It's not what you think," he began, but the words felt hollow, empty. I could feel the air thickening between us, the tension crackling like an electric charge. And then it hit me, the final piece of the puzzle. The betrayal wasn't just in what I had seen, it was in the way they were acting, in the comfort they had with each other. The connection was real. It wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't a one-time slip-up. It was something deeper, something that had been happening behind my back. "You've been seeing each other," I whispered, my voice barely audible. The words were like acid in my throat. Maria's eyes flashed with something fear, perhaps, or shame. But she quickly masked it, pulling herself together with a practiced ease. "It's not what you think," she repeated, but this time, I could hear the cracks in her voice. "We were just talking, just trying to help you." "Help me." The words felt like poison. I could feel the bitterness rising in my throat. The lies, the manipulation, the betrayal. I turned to my husband, my heart shattering into 1,000 pieces. You were supposed to be my partner. How could you?" He opened his mouth, but no words came out. I didn't need him to speak. His silence said everything. I looked back at Maria, the one person I thought I could trust. The one person who had promised to be there for me. The sister who had become my lifeline, only to rip it away when I needed it most. "You knew," I said, my voice breaking. "You knew everything and you didn't tell me." I stopped, choking on my words. "You were helping him. You were replacing me." Maria didn't argue. She didn't deny it. Instead, she just looked at me quiet, almost regretful. "Almost. I didn't want to hurt you," she said softly. "But he was already gone, you know that, right? You've been holding on to something that wasn't there anymore." My stomach turned at her words. This wasn't about love or healing. This was about control. About taking something that wasn't hers to take. I realized now that Maria hadn't just been trying to support me. She had been slowly pushing me aside, erasing me from my own life, my own marriage. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw everything in the room. But instead, I did the only thing I could. I turned and walked out. I didn't know where I was going. All I knew was that I couldn't stay there, not with them. Not in that house that had once been my home, my sanctuary. I needed space to breathe, to think. But as I stepped into the cool night air, I felt something break inside me. The truth was out now. The betrayal was real. And I didn't know if I could ever forgive them. The night air was cool against my skin, but it did nothing to ease the heat that was boiling inside of me. I walked aimlessly through the streets, the city lights flickering above me, casting long shadows on the pavement. My feet moved mechanically, as though they were guiding me somewhere, anywhere, to escape the suffocating weight of what I had just learned. My mind kept replaying the scene over and over again. Maria and my husband sitting together, laughing as if everything was normal. The warmth in their voices, the way their eyes had met with such an intimacy I had never seen before. It felt like a betrayal, not just of our marriage, but of every trust one had placed in my sister. I didn't know how long I had been walking when I finally stopped at a small park. The swings creaked softly in the wind, and I took a seat on one, letting the gentle motion calm my shaking body. The cold metal of the chain dug into my palms, but I didn't care. I felt numb, like everything around me was a dream, a nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. The truth hit harder than I ever expected. My sister, the person I thought I could count on, had been helping him, aiding in the destruction of the life I had built. She had been by my side, yes, but only to play the part of the caregiver, the one who offered help while quietly making sure I was pushed further into my own grief, my own abandonment. I should have seen the signs. I should have known. There had always been something a little off, something I couldn't place, but I ignored it because I didn't want to believe it. But now everything made sense. The way she would encourage me to move on, to let go, the way she would casually bring up the idea of moving out of the house, of starting fresh. She wasn't trying to help me heal, she was trying to take over. I pulled my phone from my pocket and stared at the screen. My heart twisted at the sight of my husband's name, the one I had saved under love. But now it felt wrong. He wasn't the man I thought he was. He hadn't just left me. He had betrayed me with the one person I thought would always have my back. I hit the call button, my finger trembling. It rang twice before he picked up. Hello. His voice was tentative, unsure, and for a moment, I wanted to hang up. But I needed to know. I needed the truth, and I wasn't going to let him off the hook this time. Where are you? I asked, my voice steady despite the hurricane inside me. I'm at home, he replied. I know what you've been doing, I said, my words sharp as knives. I saw you with her. I saw everything. You're not just leaving me, you're replacing me. There was silence on the other end, a long, suffocating pause. Then he sighed, a deep, defeated sound that made my heart ache despite the anger bubbling inside me. I'm sorry, I never wanted it to happen like this, he said, his voice distant, almost hollow. Maria and I don't know. Things got complicated. But I didn't want to hurt you. Then why did you? I spat, my grip tightening on the phone. Why did you betray me? Why did you let her do this to me? I wasn't thinking, he whispered. I've been trying to figure things out, but I didn't realize how much I was hurting you. I never wanted it to get like this. You have to believe me. But I couldn't. The words tasted like ash in my mouth, and I felt nothing but hollow. There was nothing he could say to make it right. No apology would erase the image of him and my sister, laughing together, whispering secrets I was never meant to hear. I don't want to hear it, I said, my voice shaking. I don't want any more lies. I need you to leave. Both of you. Please don't do this, he begged, but I had already made up my mind. I'm done, I whispered, before ending the call. The silence that followed was deafening, suffocating. I sat there in the park, the weight of my decision pressing down on me. But I didn't feel relieved. I didn't feel empowered. I just felt empty. I couldn't go back to that house, not yet, not with them both in it. I didn't know where I would go or what I would do next, but I knew that I couldn't stay in the place that had once been my home, the place where every corner was filled with their betrayal. As I stood up, I made a promise to myself. I would rebuild. I would find a way to heal, even if it meant doing it alone. I couldn't let them take everything from me. My life, my dignity, my peace, those were mine to reclaim. But it would take time. It would take patience. And for the first time in a long while, I felt the rusting of what it meant to be truly alone. The days that followed were a blur. I moved through them mechanically, like a shadow of myself, just going through the motions. I packed up some clothes and a few personal items, leaving the house that had once been filled with laughter and love and now felt like a prison. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't stay. Not with them. I spent the first night at a hotel, the sterile white walls and cheap furniture offering no comfort, but also no reminders of the life I had lost. I didn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with the truth that had been forced upon me. My marriage was over. My sister had betrayed me in the worst way. But it wasn't until I returned home a few days later that the consequences of everything truly hit me. I had expected the house to be empty, to find it as silent as I had left it. But as I opened the door, I was met with the sound of voices, my husband's and Maria's. It felt like I had been hit by a wave, crashing into me, overwhelming me with everything I had been running from. I didn't want to face them, not like this, not with my heart still raw, not with the memory of their betrayal still fresh. But there was no turning back. I had to face the consequences, even if it meant facing them. I stepped into the living room, and for the first time since I had left, I saw my husband and Maria together, sitting on the couch, speaking in low voices. Maria saw me first, her eyes widening in surprise before she quickly stood up, smoothing down her clothes. She looked guilty, but not sorry. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice strangely calm. There was no warmth, no familiarity in her tone anymore. Just distance. "I don't know what there is to say," I replied, my voice shaking. I couldn't keep the anger out of my voice anymore. "I know everything, Maria. I know what you've been doing behind my back. What you've been doing with him." Maria's face shifted, a flash of something regret, shame, maybe even guilt flickering in her eyes. But it was gone as quickly as it had appeared. She took a step toward me, her hand outstretched as though trying to comfort me. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said softly. "You have to understand that." But I couldn't understand. I couldn't grasp how she could have done this, how she could have betrayed me, the person who had always been there for her. How could she have allowed herself to become this person, this stranger who had taken everything from me? I shook my head, stepping back. "No, you don't get to say that to me anymore. You don't get to pretend that you're the victim here." The words I had been holding back for days spilled out in a rush. "You came into my life when I was broken, when I needed you the most. And you took advantage of that. You replaced me, Maria. You replaced me in my marriage, and you replaced me in my home." She opened her mouth to speak, but I held up a hand to stop her. "No," I said, my voice firm now. "You need to leave. Both of you." I turned to my husband, who had been silent throughout the whole exchange. His eyes were filled with guilt, but I didn't care. I didn't want his apology. I didn't want his empty promises. "You're not welcome here anymore," I said, my voice breaking. "Both of you need to leave. I want you gone." My words hung in the air, heavy with finality. Maria looked at me, and for the first time since this whole mess had started, I saw something real in her eyes, guilt. She didn't say anything, but the silence spoke volumes. Without another word, I turned and walked out of the room, leaving them behind. I didn't need to watch them pack their things. I didn't need to see them walk out the door. I had already made my decision. The truth had come to light, and it was time for them to face the consequences of their actions. Over the next few days, the word spread. My family found out. My friends found out. The truth was no longer mine to hide. It was out in the open, and I couldn't control it anymore. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to explain myself or tell anyone how I felt. But people started calling, sending messages, and I found myself overwhelmed by their pity, their concern. It felt suffocating, but I couldn't escape it. I avoided my parents' calls for as long as I could, but eventually, I had to face them. They came over, their faces a mix of concern and confusion. My father, who had always been my protector, didn't know what to say. My mother, who had always been the one to comfort me, didn't know how to comfort me now. "How could she do this?" my mother asked, her voice breaking. "How could Maria do this to you?" I didn't have an answer. The words were stuck in my throat, and I couldn't bring myself to explain. I didn't want to explain. The hurt was still too raw, too fresh. "I don't know," I said quietly, tears welling up in my eyes. "I don't know how she could do this to me." My father reached out, pulling me into a hug. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. His embrace was enough. As the days turned into weeks, I began to realize that the public consequences had already begun. Maria had lost the trust of everyone she had ever known. My husband, too, had been ostracized. But the consequences weren't just social. The emotional damage ran deeper than I had ever imagined. They had both betrayed me in ways I couldn't have predicted. And as much as I hated to admit it, I realized something else. The consequences for them would never be as heavy as the weight I would carry for the rest of my life. But that didn't mean I had to carry it alone. The weeks following the discovery felt like a haze. My life had fractured into pieces, and I was left to pick up the remnants. I had spent so many years building my life around my husband and my sister, intertwining their presence so tightly with my own that when the betrayal came, it tore through me like a storm, leaving nothing but destruction in its wake. But eventually, the storm passed. The chaos began to quiet, and I was left with a fragile silence, one that felt both foreign and familiar. I was still standing, though, and that was something I hadn't expected. I thought I would break. I thought the betrayal would consume me completely, but it didn't. In the weeks after they left, I started rebuilding. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't quick, but it was necessary. I began by reclaiming the space in my home. The house, once filled with their presence, felt like it belonged to me again. I rearranged the furniture, painted the walls in soft, calming shades, and slowly filled the empty spaces with memories of my own. I hung up pictures of the life I wanted to live, not the life I had lost. And as I rearranged the physical world around me, I began to do the same with my emotions. It wasn't enough to just get rid of them, to erase the pain they had caused. I had to learn how to forgive myself for allowing it to happen, for staying in the dark for so long. It took time, but little by little, I began to understand that it wasn't my fault. I didn't cause their betrayal. I had done everything I could. But sometimes, people make choices, and those choices have consequences. Maria had been the one to betray me, yes, but my husband had been the one to let it happen. He had allowed our marriage to wither away, and in the end, he had chosen to leave. But what hurt the most was that he didn't just leave me. He replaced me with her. That realization didn't come easily. I fought against it. I wanted to hold on to the man I had once loved, the man I had built my future with. But he was gone, and no amount of wishing would bring him back. The person he wasn't who I thought he was anymore. And the hardest part was that he wasn't even sorry. He was too far gone in his own betrayal to feel the depth of the hurt he had caused. I let go of the anger. At least, I tried to. It wasn't easy. There were days when I found myself caught in the spiral of memories, replaying the moment when I had caught them together, the anger rising again in my chest like a wildfire. But I couldn't keep living in that place. I had to let go. One day, I found myself sitting in the park, watching the sunset. The warm colors spread across the sky like a painting, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a small sense of peace. My heart still ached, but it was no longer a constant throb. It was more of a distant echo now, something I could live with, something I could accept. As I sat there, I realized that healing wasn't a destination, it was a journey. There would always be scars. I would always carry the memory of what had happened, but I could choose not to let it define me. I could choose to move forward, to rebuild my life, even if it meant doing it alone. I wasn't alone, though. I had my parents, my friends, and most importantly, I had myself. I had learned the hard way that the only person who could truly heal me was me. And I was learning to love the woman I had become, a woman who had been broken, but was still standing, still fighting, still breathing. A few weeks after that, I ran into Maria. It was inevitable. We lived in the same town, and eventually, our paths crossed. She looked different, older, more worn down, like the weight of what she had done was finally catching up with her. She was the first to speak, her voice hesitant, as if she didn't know how to approach me. "I never meant for things to get like this," she said, her eyes pleading. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I saw her as she truly was. She wasn't the sister I had once known. She wasn't the person who had been there for me, the person I had trusted. She was someone who had made choices that I could no longer ignore or excuse. "I know," I said quietly, "but you did." There was a long silence between us. The air was thick with everything that had been left unsaid. But I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel the desperate need for revenge. I had already let go of that part of me. What I felt now was something else, a calm, quiet sorrow. "I don't hate you, Maria," I said, my voice steady. "But I can't forgive you. Not right now." She nodded slowly, as if she had expected that. And then, without another word, she turned and walked away. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel the need to chase after her. As I sit here now, reflecting on everything that's happened, I realize that healing isn't a linear path. There are days when I feel strong, when I feel like I've conquered the pain, and then there are days when it hits me like a wave, reminding me of the scars I carry. But each day, I grow stronger. Each day, I learn to embrace the woman I am becoming, one piece at a time. I don't know if I'll ever fully heal from the betrayal, but I do know that I won't let it define me. I've learned that forgiveness isn't about excusing someone's actions, it's about finding peace within myself. And that's something I'm learning to do. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Would you have forgiven them, or would you have walked away too? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this story relatable, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. Thank you for listening.